He did not say it loudly. He said it the way a man says something he has been holding for years and finally allows himself to release. I can be intimate without flashbacks now. And then he exhaled. If you are a man over 50 or you love one, and something about that sentence just landed somewhere deep in your chest, stay with me. Because what happened to that man was not a mystery. It was not weakness. It was not a relationship problem. It was biology. And once he understood the biology, everything changed. This is what nobody tells men about intimacy after a certain age. Not the doctors, not the wellness ads, not the late-night supplement commercials. The conversation almost always goes straight to blood flow, testosterone, circulation. And yes, those things matter. But there is an entire layer of male sexual health that almost never gets discussed in plain language. A layer that lives not in the arteries, but in the nervous system. And for millions of men, that is exactly where the real problem is hiding. Let me explain what is actually happening inside the body during an intimate moment, because most men have never heard this explained correctly. When two people become close, when touch begins, when the atmosphere shifts toward intimacy, your nervous system is doing something extraordinary. It is running a rapid, largely unconscious assessment. It is asking a single question that it has been programmed to ask since the beginning of human survival. Is this safe? In a healthy, regulated nervous system, the answer comes back quickly. Yes. Relax. You are not in danger. And the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system, sometimes called the rest and repair system, takes over. Blood flows. Arousal builds. Presence deepens. But here is where it gets complicated for many men, and particularly for men who have spent years under chronic stress. The brain structure responsible for flagging threats, a region called the amygdala, does not distinguish well between a real physical danger and an emotional or psychological one. It does not know the difference between a predator in the bushes and a memory that carries pain. It does not know that you are safe in your own bedroom. It only knows activation. It only knows the signal. And when that signal fires during intimacy, whether it comes from an old memory, a moment of performance anxiety, an unconscious emotional association, or simply a nervous system that has been running on high alert for too long, the result is a sudden hijacking. The body shifts. The HPA axis, which governs the stress hormone cascade, releases cortisol and norepinephrine. Blood is redirected away from the reproductive system toward the large muscle groups. The mind either goes blank, goes distant, or floods with unwanted imagery. Men describe this in different ways. Some say they suddenly feel like they are watching themselves from outside their body. Others say a memory surfaces out of nowhere. Others say they simply disappear, present one moment, gone the next. And then comes the shame, and the silence, and the avoidance. What that husband was experiencing was not a failure of desire. It was a nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do, protect him at exactly the wrong moment. CTA 1. If what you just heard explains something you have felt but never had words for, drop the word protocol in the comments right now. I want to know you are here. Now let us talk about the errors. Because the way most men respond to this experience makes it worse. Not because they are foolish. Because they are doing the only things they know how to do. And none of those things address what is actually happening. The first error is framing the entire experience as a performance problem. Performance anxiety is real, but it is a description of a symptom, not an explanation of a cause. When a man tells himself he has performance anxiety, he starts trying to perform better. He focuses harder. He tries to stay present through willpower. He creates internal pressure. And internal pressure is the exact opposite of what a dysregulated nervous system needs. You cannot calm a threat detection system by demanding more of it. You calm it by teaching it that there is no threat. The second error is using alcohol to blunt the edge. This is extremely common and almost never discussed honestly. A drink or two to take the edge off, to quiet the noise, to relax enough to be present. And in the short term, it appears to work. But alcohol suppresses the nervous system indiscriminately. It reduces anxiety, yes. It also reduces sensation, delays recovery, disrupts sleep architecture, and over time worsens the very cortisol dysregulation that caused the problem in the first place. Men who rely on this pattern often find that the amount required keeps increasing while the intimacy keeps decreasing in quality. The third error is misattributing the problem to the relationship. This is perhaps the most painful one. A man begins to associate the experience of disconnection or flashback with his partner. He tells himself something is wrong between them. She senses the distance and begins to wonder the same. The relationship begins to carry the weight of a physiological problem that has nothing to do with the relationship at all. Couples spend years navigating this misattribution. Some do not survive it. The fourth error is avoidance. The nervous system learns through repetition. Every time a man withdraws from intimacy to escape the discomfort of that hijack state, the nervous system registers that withdrawal as confirmation that intimacy is a threat. The avoidance is protective in the moment. It is corrosive over months and years. The window of comfort narrows. The fear grows quieter but deeper. And the man who once only had flashbacks during intimacy now finds that even the anticipation of intimacy triggers the same response. None of these men are broken. They are simply running an outdated program on hardware that nobody helped them understand. If this video is reaching someone who needs it, a man who has never heard any of this said out loud, share it. Most men never talk about this with anyone. You sharing this might be the only reason another man finally understands what has been happening to him. So what does the path back actually look like? It starts with something that sounds almost too simple to be true. It starts with teaching the nervous system, through repeated, gentle, consistent experience, that the body is safe. Not the mind. Not the relationship. The body. The vagus nerve is the primary highway of the parasympathetic nervous system. It runs from the brainstem down through the chest and abdomen, and its tone, meaning how well it functions, how responsive and resilient it is, directly determines how quickly the body can shift out of a threat state and back into a state of calm, connection, and presence. Men with low vagal tone shift into threat activation easily and recover slowly. Men with high vagal tone recover quickly. The difference is not genetic destiny. Vagal tone is trainable. The most evidence-supported way to improve vagal tone involves the breath. Specifically, extending the exhale longer than the inhale. When the exhale is longer, the vagus nerve signals the heart to slow. The nervous system interprets this as a safety cue. Practiced consistently, not just in moments of anxiety but as a daily habit, morning and evening, 5 to 10 minutes, this pattern begins to recalibrate the baseline state of the nervous system over weeks. The second piece involves the gut. This surprises most men. But the vagus nerve communicates bidirectionally with the gut microbiome, and a disrupted gut environment actively increases anxiety signaling to the brain. Fermented foods, things like plain kefir, kimchi, and aged cheeses, along with prebiotic fibers found in foods like garlic, leeks, and oats, support the microbial diversity that keeps that gut-brain axis calm. This is not a cure. It is a foundation. And most men over 50 are not getting nearly enough of it. The third piece involves sleep architecture, specifically slow-wave sleep, which is the deep, restorative stage during which cortisol is cleared from the system and the nervous system consolidates emotional memory. Men who are getting 7 or 8 hours of sleep but poor quality sleep are not getting the cortisol clearance they need. The result is that the stress hormone load from the previous day carries forward into the next. Over weeks and months, this creates a chronically elevated cortisol baseline, which means the amygdala is always slightly activated, always slightly on guard. Improving slow-wave sleep does not require medication. It requires consistency, the same sleep and wake time every day, including weekends, and the elimination of bright screen light in the final 90 minutes before bed, which suppresses the melatonin signal that initiates the deep sleep cascade. The fourth piece is what researchers in psychophysiology call somatic reset, and it is the piece most men skip because it sounds soft. The body holds unresolved threat activation in the muscles. This is not metaphor. This is measurable. The trapezius, the jaw, the hip flexors, the diaphragm, these muscles are among the primary storage sites for incomplete stress responses. Men who spend years in chronic stress accumulate a kind of physiological residue. And that residue contributes to the hair trigger threat response that surfaces during intimacy. Progressive muscle relaxation, tensing and slowly releasing major muscle groups in sequence, practiced regularly, teaches the nervous system that tension does not have to mean danger. It is a direct communication to the amygdala. A conversation in the body's own language. None of this is complicated. None of it requires a prescription. All of it requires consistency and the willingness to take the nervous system seriously as a target of care. Not just the hormones, not just the vascular system, not just the mind. The man who whispered that he could finally be intimate without flashbacks did not find a pill. He found a pathway. He learned that his nervous system had been doing its job, protecting him, and that the job it was doing was no longer needed. He learned that you can teach a threat detection system to stand down. Slowly, deliberately, with patience and with practice. He did not fix his relationship. His relationship was not broken. He restored the physiological conditions that allowed him to actually be present in it. And the relief in his voice, the quiet, exhaled gratitude, was not the relief of a problem solved. It was the relief of a man who finally understood himself. That is available to every man willing to look honestly at what his nervous system has been carrying. In the next video, we go one layer deeper into the hormonal side of this same system. Specifically, how testosterone and cortisol exist in a direct inverse relationship, and what that means for men who are doing everything right and still not recovering the way they expect. You do not want to miss that one.